This comes from the Daily Caller News Foundation. Over 200 Inauguration Day protesters, 230 to be accurate. They face up to 10 years in jail for rioting, and that's because Washington, D.C. has an anti-rioting statute. It's part of the law there. The Washington Post reported that a majority of the arrested protesters were not residents of Washington, Maryland, or Virginia. Tom Massey, 32, of Philadelphia, was among those arrested, and he told the Washington Post, quote, "I think there should have been more violence yesterday," unquote. They'll have court dates coming up in February and March. 10 years rotting in a federal prison, I would imagine. Yeah, well, we got to smash some windows, though, and that was fun. Because we want to convince people of our way, so we smashed windows, looted stores, and burned limousines. Because the American people will identify with that, that's for sure. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Yes, they're dumb dummies. I think that's probably what you're thinking right now. It's 32 and snowing in some spots still. It was a heavy, wet snow, and it seems to have tapered off a bit at our studios. Just a quick note, Wednesday morning, we're going to be joined in studio by one of the medical professionals from Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. We do it every Wednesday morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and this is an opportunity for you to have one of those medical pros answer any questions you may have about medical issues. And as I say, we do it every week. Dr. Tripp's office is still looking for new patients. Often, and this is often, doesn't mean always, often they can see you on the very same day if you're a patient and you call up and you've got an illness. That doesn't happen in assembly line medicine and other places. And Tripp Family Medicine is located on Fillmore Street in Twin Falls, directly across from the main post office. And a great slogan they have, "Life's too short not to feel good." All of these people who are trying to convince the rest of us that we need to get on the socialist bandwagon, one of those is the former, and I love saying this, former Speaker of the House, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. And she was speaking on Morning Joe on MSDNC, and she says that Christians are confused, and a lot of people have voted for Donald Trump, in her view, they aren't really Christians. Take a listen.
Their values.
Well, thank you for asking that question, because the cultural issue, and especially when it comes to rural America, the isolation that some people feel there, plus they don't think that Democrats are people of faith, when the fact is that we are. And I say, this will be a little not in keeping with the spirit of the day of unity, but I say they pray in church on Sunday and then pray on people the rest of the week. Mm-hmm. And while we're doing the Lord's work by ministering to the needs of God's creation, they are ignoring those needs, which is to dishonor the God who made them. So we don't wear our religion on our sleeve, and maybe we should. We don't wrap ourselves in the flag, but maybe we should, because we're all, Democrats, Republicans, everyone right. loves our country, are people of faith, but we don't, as I say, exploit that because we don't think you're supposed to, but maybe we have to make it clearer.
She said they're dishonoring the God that made them. He made the little babies. In fact, that's how we all got started. And yet, she supports abortion mills across this country. She brings to her church, which is the Roman Catholic Church, what is referred to as grave scandal. I'm sure that the hosts at MSDNC have no idea of that, and that she's also subject and could well soon be excommunicated. And if she really wants to be part of an abortion-loving church, there are numerous options out there on the American left. But her own church does not agree with what she's doing. And if she feels that way, no one forces her to stay in it. She can always go join the Unitarian Universalists or some other left-leaning church, and then she can support all of the abortions that she'd like to.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Will American media give as much attention on the 27th, which is the National March for Life? Will it give as much, and it brings 500,000 people to Washington, will they give as much attention to that as they did the rioters on Friday, Thursday night and Friday in Washington, and the women in comfortable shoes on Saturday? Of course not. In fact, this takes place every year. Matt Walsh, who's a writer for The Blaze, used to be a coworker of mine in radio. Matt Walsh was writing last week. It is the biggest, it's the largest civil rights demonstration in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people, and the numbers grow every year. The last time I attended, I believe, was in 2012 or 2013, maybe. 2013, possibly. The last time I attended, there were over 400,000 people. The crowds continue to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and yet you can't even find it in many cases anywhere on the front page or near the front page of the Washington Post. Pravda on the Potomac ignores it. Network newscasts ignore it. And so there's obviously a double standard going on here, and for all the belly aching about Trump's being mean to us in the media, well, you ought to get with the program and start being objective. Because by ignoring it, it's an omission. It's like a lie, and that would be called fake news. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Thank you for tuning in this morning. And just a quick note, if you're hearing the program, thank you. If you're struggling to hear the program, you need to get in touch with Dr. Christine Pickup, a doctor of audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. She's offering a new hearing device which works directly with the brain, and it's better than anything else that's previously been on the market. She's offering a free 2-week trial with the new devices. Call Dr. Pickup today to schedule a fitting appointment. Open your world to better hearing. Mount Harrison Audiology at 312-0957. That's 312-0957. We've got more on the way on KLIX. Bill Colley with you today until 10 o'clock. Add another company that's going to be adding more jobs in the United States as we have a new president who's talking about backing off on regulations. According to Reuters, Kroger Supermarkets is going to add 10,000 jobs across the country. If you're aware of who Kroger happens to be, they own a couple of grocery stores right here in Twin Falls. In fact, there's a Kroger chicken wing sauce. Now, I haven't had it in a long time because I haven't had a hamburger, for instance, since September. I haven't had a lot of things I'm staying away from because of the diet that I've been on. But Kroger has one of the best. Unfortunately, only one of the grocery stores in town that they own sells it. The other one closer to home doesn't. But those are the breaks, and since I'm not eating chicken wings anyway. But 10,000 more jobs, and then there's a long list from Reuters here about all the companies that are planning to do business now in the USA. So America is open for business once again, and yet the media and lefty is screaming and belly aching and rabidly drooling at the mouth because Trump is president. Again, I don't get it. Speaking of drooling at the mouth, the macho Chuck Todd on NBC's Meet the Press yesterday got into it with Kellyanne Conway, of course, she's the real architect behind Donald Trump's election as president of the United States. And he's saying, you had the press secretary telling lies, and how can we trust him? As I said earlier, the Trump White House was just trying to distract from a lot of the changes they were making over the weekend. And the media, like a hungry fish, grabbed the hook, line, and sinker.
Then explain, you did not answer the question. Why did the president send out his press secretary, who's not just the spokesperson for Donald Trump, he also serves as the spokesperson for all of America at times. He speaks for all of the country at times. Why put him out there for the very first time in front of that podium to utter a provable falsehood? It's a small thing, but the first time he confronts the public, it's a falsehood?
Chuck, I mean, if we're going to keep referring to our press secretary in those types of terms, I think that we're going to have to rethink our relationship here. I want to have a great open relationship with our press, but look what happened the day before, talking about falsehoods. We allowed the press to come into the Oval Office and witness President Trump signing executive orders. And of course, the Senate had just confirmed General Mattis and General Kelley to their 2 posts, and we allow the press in, and what happens almost immediately? A falsehood is told about removing the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. That's just flat out false. And
it was corrected immediately.
Chuck, why was it said? Chuck, why was it said in the first place? Because everybody is so presumptively negative.
Into the head of that
reporter. That it's okay. No, excuse me. Oh, no. That reporter was writing on behalf of the press pool. That
I
falsehood
understand that.
got spread 3,000 times
But it does
before
not
it was corrected.
Excuse
and
me.
it's
It
still
does
out
not
there.
excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer
no,
your
you
question.
did not. You did
Yes,
not
I
answer
did.
the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood.
I was listening to that while I was just taking a look at a clipping I have from Eric Erickson's website, The Resurgent. And Erickson says the only reason the press corps is fixated on the sides of crowds is because it is a passive-aggressive way to insult Donald Trump. Now, this and media is guilty of Trump derangement syndrome just as much as all of their fellow travelers on the left. Donald Trump is going to create American jobs. People are coming in. Well, they were already going to come here. Well, we don't know that, do we? In some cases, that may be true. But a lot of these people are saying as well, it's going to be easier for us to do business in the United States. So, number one, Trump will put Americans back to work. We'll have people digging coal again in West Virginia, and we'll turn around their lives and their families' lives because of that. Number two, I don't understand the logic. There's no logic behind this derangement syndrome. A lot of these people kept screaming about their sexual preferences at the rally in Washington that the women in comfortable shoes had on Saturday. Donald Trump is the most gay-friendly Republican ever to be elected president, and maybe the most gay-friendly president of all time. You know, he made comments after the shooting, the nightclub shooting in Orlando. Look, we all have friends, even if we don't approve of the lifestyle. We all have friends, family members, and coworkers who are of that persuasion, and a lot of them are nice people, and we wouldn't want them getting gunned down by an Islamic thug. We wouldn't want that to happen at all. He's already made comments about that, and yet they keep attacking him. And when it comes to foreign affairs, I mean, he's the most libertarian president we've ever had when it comes to overseas entanglements, and they're still angry with him. We have a caller with us. Caller, about 40 seconds. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, Trump's speech after he's sworn in was great, and but I thought it was interesting, all these Hollywood types that said they were going to leave if Trump was elected. And, you know, they're hanging around. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, was communist lawyer for the ACLU, and Samuel Jackson, the whole bunch of them. And they're hanging around because they know in any other country, nobody's got any money to buy their fake movie stuff. And just remember, socialism never works. And the media, it's mass media is lies, distortion, and just fake news. It's propaganda. So just don't pay attention. Look at our local paper here. It's just full of misinformation. But I got a kick out of the Washington Post. He said, or Bloomberg, it said that there were no scandals during the Obama administration. I laughed for 5 minutes when I saw that in a little editorial last week.
Hey, got to let you run, but great points. And we'll talk soon. It's coming up on 9:40. 20 minutes left on Top Story today with Bill Colley right here on KLIX. London's Daily Mail has a story out this morning, and I guess it impacts places like Twin Falls and Pocatello and Idaho Falls and Coeur d'Alene and Lewiston. We have had people moving off the farms all around the world, but especially in the United States, of course, over the last 80 years. And about 1940, we switched from being a more rural nation to a more urban nation, and then the growth of these megacities has gone on for decades. But according to the research from the United Nations, I know you trust the United Nations, small cities are not prepared for a massive population flood caused by an influx of urban migrants. People are going to be leaving these great big urban centers, the big megacities, and they're going to be coming to smaller cities. Well, we're seeing it here already. But it says that there will be so many coming. It says by 2030, which is, 13 years away, 27% of the world will live in smaller cities. For you liberals out there, that's actually more than a quarter of the population. Coming up on 9:44, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 34. Telephone number for reaching our program is 736-0300. 736-0300, and you're on the air. You're up next. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, considering Donald Trump's inauguration speech, all of my studies, the early church and pre-colonial war history of America, It's almost like, I mean, I'm not trying to praise him for more than he has coming, but it's almost like he was born in 1750. He's now grown up to the point where he has a full understanding of everything that's going on and what needs to be done, and he's ready to fight that war and give us a free nation.
I would think so. He's got a lot of people against him, though, arrayed against him, even in his own party.
Yeah, that's why we have to support him. The people of America have to give him every bit of support we can.
I'd agree with that. Thank you much for the telephone call. 736-0300. 736-0300. Do you know that, well, it's an Episcopal church, which is a more liberal denomination. The National Cathedral in Washington, where they had the prayer service Saturday morning. By the way, just the pictures of that probably will give Trump 3 to 5 points in polls around the country. But there are already Episcopalians angry that Donald Trump was hosted there because they don't like him. And they're angry with the leaders of their own church. It was what they call an ecumenical service, but they're angry about the fact that Donald Trump actually was allowed inside. Apparently, they talk about being inclusive and welcoming to all at these churches, unless you're Donald Trump. Another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning, Bill. I don't know. I'm already having a hard time. My wife told me I cannot watch the news anymore because all I do is scream at the TV and my blood pressure goes up. Because all they do now is they've gone on the attack. And they'll attack anything and everything that tries to prove or does anything to promote their cause. Not the truth or not anything else, just their cause. And they still got people out there that believe everything they say. And that's part of the reason of these marches and riots and everything else, is because they believe what the media is telling them is going on without finding out or hearing it for themselves. And they just can't understand. And even some of the stuff that Donald Trump has said, I keep telling people, don't listen to what comes out of his mouth. What is he saying? What is the message out of it? Because he's blunt. And people have been in PC for so long, they don't understand bluntness, and they get offended because of the bluntness, and they're not listening to what's being said.
There's a writer.
That's the problem.
It was picked up today. He's the AP Associated Press television writer. He might be one of many, but it was picked up by the Idaho Press Tribune, and the headline was "Trump's running war on the media undermines trust." And they really believe that they're still trusted? I mean, come on. They basically took the hammer on their own and pounded the nails into their own coffins. This notion that somehow that talk radio or Donald Trump or anybody in the Republican Party has actually hurt the trust in media. When you go around and you put rockets on pickup trucks to blow them up so you can say that pickup trucks are dangerous, a particular brand of a pickup truck is dangerous, or you edit the George Zimmerman tape. The fact of the matter is the public is well aware of what these people are all about and how these people are they're engaging in social engineering, and they believe they run the country. They were the advocates for same-sex marriage in this country for decades, trying to couch it as a civil rights issue. They've been advocates. They haven't been doing a balanced effort in decades.
But here's the problem, Bill, and we can agree on this, guaranteed. We have seen this for a long time. They still have their people. The people on the left still believes this baloney. They're swallowing it hook, line, and sinker as gospel, and they know it, so they can still keep shoveling it.
I thank you much. Shoveling, it's a good way to put that, and it does stink, like a lot of other things I used to shovel when I was on the farm. The notion during the last decade, they would argue for, and you can make up your own mind about same-sex marriage. I've been quoting Cal Thomas already today, and he said, straight people wrecked marriage already. So, but and it's you look at what they used to do. These newspaper editorial writers would say, it's the right thing to do. Well, number one, you didn't go to seminary, to my knowledge. So number two, when it comes to various moral and ethical choices we make, I don't know why you think you've got more on the ball than everybody else does. And that line is not objective, because what's right and wrong, I may have a different definition of that. But they would make these pronouncements as if somehow, see, if you don't believe, you should believe what they believe in. That's their message. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And then you wonder why people don't buy your product anymore, or pay attention to you, or have any trust in you. I'm sorry, but you're deranged. You must have had a little bit too much ganja when you were going to school. Something's not right in your head, or heads, collective heads in this case, with a lot of people in media. They hang out in such an insular, cocoon. They don't understand why anybody else. I played that clip earlier from Cal Thomas where he mentioned the New York Times says it has to become more diverse. And he says what they mean is hire more people who don't look like the rest of us, but hire more liberal people who don't look like the rest of us. 9:50, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. We have another caller, I believe, looking to join us. And you're up next. You're on the air.
Bill, this is Darren, and I just wanted to tell you that I took your advice and got on total body transformation last week. I went in Monday, met with Don, and I just wanted to let you know I've lost 7.5 pounds.
Isn't that wonderful? Are you amazed how quickly this happens?
I am, and I was amazed that I was able to eat some food that I liked, and the shakes really don't taste too bad.
I put blueberries in some of the shakes, or I'll take half a banana sometimes and blend that into the shake. But because of the diet, I have actually learned to cook a lot more foods that I would have never thought about cooking before. I've discovered that I can go to Winco and I buy this. It's a mixture of, I love, by the way, squash, but it's a mixture of zucchini and tomatoes, and the entire can may have like 125 calories in it, and that's a meal. I've also discovered, I went and looked up what pizza has. There are certain pizzas I can eat an entire half of a pizza from some of the chains out there. Some of them only have a half a pizza, 1,000 calories. If I follow the diet through the day, I can have half a pizza for dinner. Or I can go to Chick-fil-A and I can get the chicken sandwich and a medium waffle fries with unsweetened tea, and there's only about 600 calories. And I've done the same thing.
That's not bad.
I've also done the same thing over at Culver's. And if you go online and you can look up all of these restaurants, most of them now post what every different item has in the way of calories. So I can do the grilled chicken sandwich and medium fries at Culver's for about 650 calories. So I've been delving into it. You can even go to McDonald's because there are certain items people think it gets a bad rap, but everybody loves McDonald's. I mean, deep down in, they all know if you go to one McDonald's here or you go to one in Kansas, you're always going to have something consistent. But you can go there and you can find locale choices as well. So the foods you can eat are just the incredible array that it was allowed me to discover, and I greatly actually expanded my dietary choices.
Well, I'm just tired of doing diets where I'm not seeing any weight loss, and I needed something to really give me a boost. So I was happy to see my results today.
When I dropped 60 pounds, I've got to tell you that the motivation when you're dieting is just to see because that's the other part of this. Some diets do work, but you go through stretches where you go into a holding pattern and you maybe even gain a pound, or you don't lose anything for a couple of weeks, and then it gets very depressing. And but in this case, the results are so easily seen that motivation, it just can. When I got to 60, I said, now I want to go to 100. And
wow.
Because when you get to 60, you realize, you know what, 100 is not going to be difficult if I've already managed to do 60.
Well, I want to thank you for the endorsement because it really encouraged me. So
well, and good luck to you out there. And I thank you much for the telephone call. I was talking to Don on Thursday, And Don says he may actually throw a party at some point with a number of the people who are on the diet, and I'll drop in and we'll all have a chance to talk about it in person. But you really, if you haven't looked into it yet, it's like nothing else I've ever done. I did Atkins a couple of times when I was younger. The first time I did it, everyone says, well, you can eat all the steak and eggs you like. Well, I like eggs and I like steak, but I don't like them every day. So I did it and I lost weight. And it worked out. But I didn't stay on it for a very long time because I ran into a friend from church at the grocery store, and he said, gee, you lost weight. How'd you do it? When I told him, he says, oh, I had a friend who did that, and he dropped dead of a heart attack. Now, Atkins is a diet that was built for mainly diabetics. And once you actually start it, you can start introducing vegetables and some other things, healthier things, as you move along after the first few weeks. But the second time I tried Atkins, well, I remember telling a nurse friend, an old girlfriend of mine was a nurse, a couple of them actually, but she was asking me how it was going the second time, and I said, I haven't been able to do number 2 in 3 days. She said, I don't think that this Atkins diet is right for you. And she was right. Obviously, that's a serious issue. But no, I haven't had this diet. As I say, it's like nothing else. And I've known a lot of diets. I never met a pizza I didn't like in life. But this has been a real godsend for me. And people say, do you feel different? Well, you drop 60 pounds. You definitely feel different when you're walking, when you're sitting, even sleeping. I mean, it's amazing how it makes you feel. Plus, this diet gives you an energy boost. The first week I was on it, I just remember, I know sometimes I get up caffeine one time for about 7 weeks. And when I went back and had my first cup of coffee afterwards, it was like, wow. I don't know a lot about being high, but that made me feel, if that's what high is, then I think I understand it. But the energy level that I got within a week on this diet, the total body transformation system, made me feel that way. I mean, I felt more energetic, and you will too. And just want to make sure that people out there, if they haven't given it any consideration yet, please put it at your list, the top of your list, if you're thinking about dieting. 36 right now. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Tomorrow morning, Steve Millington will join us in studio between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Some of the Republicans are at least still talking to me. I got to make a quick note. I get a paycheck every couple of weeks, and it says Town Square Media on it. It never says Republican Party. And people out there, the big mistake I think that I heard people say in like National Review type of conservatives and other Republicans in Washington during the course of the election last year, they thought their mistake was that radio talk show hosts work for the party. When indeed we don't. We work for individual companies. And sometimes it takes a little adjustment for them to realize that if they want me to be a spokesman and give me 6 figures a year, I'll gladly do it, but nobody's ever made that offer. And I've lost a couple of radio talk shows. I've been downsized for expenses or because I've made people mad. And none of the Republicans ever came to me afterwards and said, well, let us help you out. They love you when you actually allow them a microphone to promote their causes. But as soon as you can no longer convey media access upon them, all sorts of people who were your friends when you were in talk radio don't know you. Just saying. And tomorrow's newspaper column will anger some other people out there. But I think this is where Republicans in this state have had their biggest break with their voting public, is over that refugee resettlement issue and what that could result in happening in places across the country. My column will appear tomorrow morning in the Times News. You can see it online or in the hard copy of the newspaper. God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll be back here tomorrow morning between 8 and 10 o'clock. Rush Limbaugh is coming up next following news from Fox. It'll be Sean Hannity at 1 o'clock today, Glenn Beck at 4, and then Dave Ramsey at 7 o'clock tonight. Have a great day.